Hello, and welcome to the National Catholic College Admission Association and Jesuit Excellence Tour virtual college fair and panels. So excited that you're here this evening to learn more about colleges. All right, we have some fantastic schools here with us today. My name is Danielle, and I will be your facilitator for the evening. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Your camera and microphone are off, so our panelists cannot see or hear you. You will be able to use the Q&A button to ask any questions throughout the entire session. This is just one of the many sessions that's going on, so be sure to check out the schedule on the website. This presentation is being recorded and will be available at strivescan.com/NCCAA. All right, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists.
Hello, everyone. We're so excited to have you here today with us. I hope everyone can see my screen. Today, we'll be having a panel on social justice and service opportunities at a Catholic college. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues so we can all introduce ourselves. I'll turn it over to my colleague Chanel from Assumption University.
Thank you, Sherry. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Chanel Cartagena Dobson, Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Assumption University. We're going to just give you a quick snapshot of our institutions as well, so you know where we're coming from. Assumption is a Catholic liberal arts university located in Worcester, Massachusetts, the heart of the Commonwealth. We're an hour west of the city of Boston. We offer 35 majors and 49 minors. We actually went through the transition to university this past June 2020 as well, which allows us to create 5 schools and colleges within the university. Within that, we have the College of the Arts and Science, Grennan School of Business, School of Graduate Studies, the School of Health Sciences, and School of Nursing, where basically we house all of our 35 majors and 49 minors. We are a community of 2,000 students coming from 33 states and 11 countries. Our average size class is 20 students per class, capped at 30. Faculty to student ratio or student to faculty ratio is 13:1, and we have 0 teaching assistants. We are located in Worcester, Massachusetts, but we also do have a campus in Rome, Italy. It serves as a study abroad option for all of our students. So definitely a very lively community. Most of our students live on campus all 4 years. So very, very quick. That was a little bit about Assumption. I'm excited to talk to you all during the panel today. I will go ahead and turn it over to Nathaniel.
Thank you. Good afternoon and good evening, everybody. My name is Nathaniel Brickhouse. I'm the Assistant Director for Regional Recruitment here at Loyola University, Maryland, also on the East Coast. We are in Baltimore, Maryland. We are within Baltimore city limits, but we're about 10 or 15 minutes north of downtown. So I really like that Loyola has a campus-based experience, but access to a larger city. In terms of size, we are just under 4,000 total undergrads, so kind of on the smaller end of that medium-sized institution. Very campus-based. Most of our students will choose to live on campus all 4 years. It's over 80%, although you're only required to your first year, which really reflects well on the type of community that we're trying to build here. We are a liberal arts school and we are Jesuit Catholic, and so you don't declare a major until your second year. Some of the most popular ones are bio and pre-med, pre-health. The business school is very popular. We have a school of education as well. Communication, psychology, political science being popular too. Study abroad is also very popular at Loyola. Nearly 60% of our students will study abroad. And we are still Division I in terms of sports, having some of those big checklist items that you might want from a larger school. But I will pass it right along.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cherie Gilmore Cleveland, Dean of Admissions for St. Mary's College of California. We're located in Northern California and Moraga, California. We're a residential campus with under 2,500 students. Although we are small and tiny, we're mighty. We're a Division I school in the West Coast Conference. You may have known us for our basketball team, but we also have a championship rugby team as well, many club sports, and as a residential campus, we do require students in their first year to live on campus. It really gets to the heart of who we are as a Lasallian Catholic institution. Also, with that being said, we offer 40 plus majors. Some of those highlighted majors that are popular with a lot of students are going to be business administration, English, kinesiology, as well as communications and psychology. We have a robust pre-med, pre-professional health sciences program. And we also have some differentiating programs through our integral Great Books program. We also require students to take a January term where they take courses outside of their major, where they can really delve into things that are good and fun. Also, we are noted as a college that changes lives. And we really focus in on that designation because of the intimacy of our campus and our Lasallian heritage on really meeting students where they are. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague from the University of San Diego.
Sorry, my microphone was muted. Good evening. My name is Minha Huan. I'm the Director of Admissions. I'm also an alum of USD as well. USD is a medium-sized liberal arts college located in San Diego, California. We have about 6,000 undergrads with 42 undergraduate majors in the College of Arts and Sciences, School of Business, and the Charlie Marco School of Engineering. Our average class size is 23, and the largest class is capped at 40 students. Our campus is centrally located in San Diego. We are about 15 minutes from downtown, 5 to 15 minutes from some of the most beautiful beaches in the United States, Ocean Beach, Pacific Beach, La Jolla Shores. We also are on the border of Mexico, which allow for a lot of binational opportunities. We're about 20 minutes from the border of Mexico. Our campus is ranked number 6 most beautiful campus in the nation. USD is also designated by Ashoka U as one of 42 changemaker campuses in the world because of our ongoing commitment to social justice, social entrepreneurship, sustainability, and globalization. I'll share a little bit more about that changemaker identity down the line of the presentation. Thank you.
So for the purpose of this panel, focusing on social justice, I'm just going to go around to my colleagues for them to touch on what are the areas of social justice that are at the forefront on your campus. Minha?
Sure. So for us, one is social injustice. So Black Lives Matters is an ongoing conversation and a lot of work being done around that. Homelessness, just given where we are in our city, where we're located. And then, of course, because we're on the border of Mexico, so a lot of border issues is part of the everyday conversation and projects and research that's being done.
Nathaniel.
Yeah, when I got this question, the first big area that Loyola works with that came to mind was something called the York Road Initiative. And the York Road community is a local Baltimore community that really juts up right to the north of campus. And I'm going to read just so I don't get it wrong. But what this initiative tries to do is, quote, take a leadership role in the development of a multidimensional plan to improve quality of life for all persons living, working, and learning in the York Road corridor. That can be a little wordy, but really what it is trying to improve the quality of life of the local community where our university is, and really treat it not as a, we're doing service for you. Really, we're making our community a better place with you.
Chanel.
Thank you, Sherry. I want to Nathaniel, when I read this question, I thought about service right away, and inspired by Catholic teaching, we offer week-long service and immersion trips in the United States and abroad. This really helps Assumption and form students for compassionate service and social justice while growing in faith. So, within those service trips, for example, we offer a brand new one that's coming up, is one in Texas, which is to work as well with border issues, for example. But we have different service trips that work in, with our students go to other cities, and we really try to focus on what's going on within that city. What are those social justice issues happening in that city to help with that population? So our students are really able to kind of be exposed to what's happening across the United States and abroad. And we want students to obviously be successful within their professional careers, but I believe that the work of our faculty and staff extends much further than that. We want students to live soulful, fulfilling lives, and we call this to light the way. Basically for our faculty and staff, that's lighting the way for them. But with everything that we have at Assumption, we really hope that students are lighting the way for others, and that goes back to that compassionate service and hope for social justice as well.
And here at St. Mary's, when we think about issues that are at the forefront dealing with social justice, it's really spearheaded by our mission and ministry, as well as our Catholic Institute for Lasallian Social Action, which really spearheads issues around poverty, homelessness or unhoused issues, food security, and also access to quality education, ranging from pre-K to college, access to also persistence as well. I want to kind of turn and go a little bit more deeper for my panel to talk a little bit about, as a Catholic college and university, how does your mission lend itself to social justice and service initiatives? And I'm going to actually start with Nathaniel with this question.
Sure thing. So we're a Jesuit school, and our motto is strong truths well lived. So I think the truths can, be like the college process of finding your own truths and what you want to focus on academically and what you eventually want to go into in terms of career. But I think it can also deal with those times that we're wrestling with those really bigger truths of what do I want to be in the world, and how can I use my time here to make this place better. So I think the fact that around 60% of our students engage in service while they're at Loyola, I think that speaks very highly of the experiences that we help facilitate to our students. I think that if you took a walk around campus right now, you'd see a lot of signs for advocacy and for representing traditionally underrepresented groups, particularly within Catholic universities. So I think at the university level, there's a really good, strong drive to have our students, you all, future, to get engaged in that. But I think that the Office of Community, Service, and Justice also does a really good job of making our students aware of what opportunities are in Baltimore, but also where those areas of greatest need are. So it's really built in very organically into the curriculum in a lot of ways. A lot of courses have service learning components, and those are things that both complement what you're learning academically in the classroom, but they're reciprocal in that they're also built with the community members who are going to be benefiting from this within that partnership. So I think that Loyola does a lot to help on the student side, also kind of integrate it academically too.
Chanel, can you tell us a little bit about Assumption as it pertains to this question?
Absolutely. An Assumption education really seeks to awaken this world of ideas said by our founder, Father Dawson, that education is not only a way to acquire certain skills, but also a way to form well-rounded citizens. So Assumption really prepares students to reflect upon complex questions. And this is actually embedded as we seek to, in our mission, as we seek to form individuals known for critical intelligence, thoughtful citizenship, and compassionate service. And I know, kind of going back to that service that I spoke about before, and Nathaniel was speaking about as well. And I think you can see kind of a theme going on here with Catholic colleges. The university also hosts a number of events throughout the academic year to celebrate and develop a greater understanding of the life experiences of all students. These include students forums, guest speakers, and other education awareness efforts to ensure that all students, regardless of race, gender, or sexual identity know that they're valued members of the campus community. Our faculty challenge our students to examine problems from a variety of perspectives as well. Think about it this way. It is not simply enough to tell students what is just or unjust. Rather, students are challenged to discover the truth, and kind of goes back to what Nathaniel was talking about as well. And they're guided by our faculty, but they're also exposed to these different experiential learning opportunities, like the service opportunities I spoke about before, and this week-long immersion trips. So essentially, this is why Assumption exists, right, as a Catholic institution, to guide students on this intellectual journey of self-reflection as it reflects to the just and unjust throughout their time at Assumption.
And then to our neighbors to the south of us, Minha, can you talk a little bit about University of San Diego?
Sure, my pleasure. It's one of the things that we take great pride in, and I'm happy to share a lot of that. I talked earlier about some of our issues that we are working on that's at the forefront. So I'm going to give some examples of that. But first, I want to share that our core curriculum, or what students see as their general education, we actually have a requirement, a component called Diversity, Inclusion, and Social Justice. All of our students are required to take a course that is related to that theme in order to graduate from USD. So that's something that we're very proud of. Some other examples, our Center for Diversity and Inclusion put on an event called Black is Beautiful, where Black USD students give their perspective on the strength, power, and pride they see themselves and others. Our music department, through our choral scholars program, invited student singers from all over the world to spend a week long on the border of Mexico for a powerful program called Common Ground Voices. And then we too have an immersion program through the Mulvaney Immersion Community for Action and Humility. The acronym is called MICA. It's a fellowship program where our students will spend some time living in Mexico on the border, and to really kind of go through daily life and what it's like for our neighbors, and work with different organizations that are concerned with solving social ills. That's another one. But I really think iconic to our Changemaker campus designation is the Changemaker Hub. We have several annual challenges, and they're all sponsored, and they have scholarship and funding related to them if students are able to win in the competition. So the Changemaker Challenge is one. Is to generate ideas for better addressing one social challenge that we identified. So for example, in the year of 2020, the theme for that year is addressing homelessness. We also have the Fowler Global Social Innovation Challenge, and it's sort of like the Changemaker Challenge, but it's on a global level. So we invite students from all over the world. I had the privilege of sitting in the audience during one of the final rounds for awarding that scholarship. And one of the challenge that really stood out to me was a group of students, college students from Brazil, and they created an app to help low-income families identify affordable housing through this app. So these are some of the ideas. Our engineering program our engineering school has a program called Engineering Exchange for Social Justice. So a course that is offered is a user design center class in collaboration with the Blind Community of San Diego and the Braille Institute of San Diego. And finally, I think one of the most powerful example I can give is when we think about social justice and our most vulnerable who we have to protect is through our law school, the Child Advocacy Institute. Have academic programs that include courses that provide clinical training for our law student in child advocacy. And for instance, in this February, we supported the study on Black Mind Matters, addressing disproportionate suspension of Black children and youth in schools. So these are some of the examples of us really, as a Catholic university, like all of you, really walking the walk. Thank you, Cherie.
Fantastic. Before we open it up for additional questions, which you can put in the Q&A section down below where you can write your questions out and we'll get to them. I want to turn to the panel and ask two of you about how does social justice and service show up in the admission process? And I'll start with Minha to answer that question.
Okay, sorry to turn on my mic. So on the slide that introduced USD, you notice there's a phrase and it's called Change Makers Wanted. And really our admissions, when we look at the students' activities and personal qualities outside of the transcript, reviewing of the transcript, we're looking for students with what we call change maker qualities. So these are the traditional activities of community engagement, volunteer work, leadership, talent, all these things that students do outside of the classroom and things they do in their community. But we apply this change maker lens because we really want to identify students and help us to focus on finding these would-be change makers, right? Students who really have demonstrated an interest or activities in areas of social justice, a desire to be a global citizen, volunteering in their community, leadership, social innovation, creativity. So these are all of the things that we all kind of focus on when you do a holistic read, but we at USD apply this change maker lens to it. So that's kind of how it shows up on the admission during the admissions process for us. Thank you.
Chanel, what would you say?
Thank you, Sherry. I definitely agree with Mingha, right? Definitely social justice and service, and maybe what you have already done during the past few years, you can show us that through your extracurricular activities section, right? You can talk to us about what you have been doing outside of the classroom, or maybe it's something inside of the classroom and it was a very special project. Some of the other ways that you can show us, what you have been doing outside of, in terms of social justice and service could be through your essay as well. Minhan mentioned this term of holistic review, and what that means is that we look at your application as a whole. So we are actually taking a look at all of the information that you're sending us, right? So everything from your transcript to your essay, through your extracurricular activities, any additional information, letters of recommendation, we are reading, right? So we are looking for students that from all walks of life, students that bring that diversity of thought, right, to our campus as well. And we obviously are looking for students that have been involved and have gone above and beyond, maybe when it comes to service and social justice. But know that when we are reviewing it, yes, we're looking at those in your extracurricular activities, your essay, if you choose to talk about that, even your letters of recommendation as well. I always tell students, your recommenders know you way better than we know you. So yes, we do read those letters of recommendation. And sometimes your recommenders will be talking about how you have maybe add to social justice initiatives and service as well. And in particular with Assumption, I will go back to that phrase that I mentioned before, Light the Way. We actually have a Light the Way scholarship in recognition of that message. And I think, with what Minha was talking about, you will see how all of this starts to kind of like comes into a full circle, right? From our mission and ambition as institutions, as what we're seeking for in students. So in this case, we have a Light the Way scholarship, which is for students that have gone above and beyond in terms of innovation, leadership, peer engagement, social justice, and or community service, right? So that's what students have been doing outside of the classroom, and how it shows up in your admissions process is through those extracurricular activities, essay, letters of recommendation, interviews as well. If you're applying to institutions that have interviews as an option, maybe some institutions that are required. I know that always that Assumption is an option, and you can talk a little bit more about that as well. So yeah.
Great. I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A box. So I'm going to throw another question at Nathaniel, which is, what advice do you have for students looking to get involved in service opportunities?
Sure thing. I'll say first and foremost, if there's a community service office or organization on campus, that's going to be your first stop no matter what. For us, like I mentioned earlier, it's the Center for Community Service and Justice. That's sort of an umbrella organization where you could show up to that office and say, hey, I'm really passionate about hunger and access to food. This is something that I've done a lot of work in high school with. What opportunities are there for me on campus or in the larger community, in Loyola's case, Baltimore? And that's going to be a really good place to kind of hit the ground running and get involved and maybe find those smaller organizations or groups on campus for something that is going to be your best fit. But the other piece of advice I would say is try and link whatever service opportunities you're interested in with your academics. And two big examples stand out to me just from Loyola. Our accounting majors every year will do free filing of tax returns for the local community, which is for them a really good way to get some accounting experience. But for the local community, it really allows them to do this for free, saves them a lot of money. But at its very core, it's really linking our students with community members who they most likely would not be interacting with on a day-to-day basis, and really kind of opens their eyes to, oh, wow, these are the financial realities that folks right down the road are living with every day. The other one that really briefly comes to mind is Health Outreach Baltimore, where our pre-health students will volunteer at local hospitals. So getting that hospital experience, making sure that's really what they want to go into. So definitely link the service opportunities with what you're academically interested in. Talk with your professors, and I'm sure that there's a slew of opportunities available.
I'll also answer this question myself. One thing that I love to offer to students when they're thinking about service opportunities is first starting with, what is accessible to them. So many times there's service opportunities in where we're located and what we love to do, whether that is in your parish or at your church, great opportunities through faith-based communities that you may be already affiliated with. You don't want to overlook those service opportunities, as well as opportunities that are in your high school. Judging from your or looking at your interests, it can also be associated, just as Nathaniel said, with the environment. It can be about access to education. So, reaching back to help those younger than you in elementary or middle school. There may be ways to help supplement the education that students in local schools that don't have access to additional tutoring, where you can go out and serve to help with access to education. I know some students are still do scouting, whether it's Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. I love reading about students' Gold Star Awards and those type of projects. They're always filled with service to the community, looking to see how you can help elders in the community, senior citizens. I know also looking at food security or food insecurity at your local food bank. That's something. There's so many different things that you can do. And sometimes it doesn't have to be this big thing. Sometimes the little things make all the difference. And so I really want to just let students know that there's so many opportunities and ways to serve. Start with what you're interested with. Start with what's around you, and look to those that you see that are in need, and see whether it's small or big, how you can act to influence change, because that's what our students are doing all the time. And it's not that sometimes they are doing things that are huge and big and they're winning competitions, and sometimes they're going out in small ways that are helping others. And so that's something that you also have access to as well. I, again, just wanted to open it up to questions if anyone has any questions. I also wanted to share, because I didn't talk about our mission at St. Mary's College of California, that, we are a Catholic LaSallian institution. And so something that's really important to us, as it pertains to social justice really stems from our core principles. And 3 really resonate with me around service and social justice, which are concern for the poor and social justice, inclusive community, and respect for all people. And really helping our students activate their hearts, their hands, and their heads to really wrap around issues around social justice and really think about how they can serve. You know, we have this model where students enter to learn and they leave to serve. And so they take the education that they get here and they go and they impact not just themselves, not just their families, but the community and even the world. And so that's something that's important to us. And it starts with having the access to education. Our founder, De La Salle, is the saint of teaching. And so because of that, he thought that it is very important that students have access to education regardless of their social status. He actually came from an affluent family and gave all his money away so that he can teach, so he could teach the poor. And so the Christian Brothers really draw upon that, and it lives today. And so it's one of the most radical things some people can do is to educate a mind. And so that's something that's really important to us as well. We're getting close to finishing up, but I just wanted to throw it to my panelists with any last words that they would like to share in terms of service or even tips for you all as you get ready to go into this college admission journey. I'll turn it over to Minha first.
Great, thanks, Cherie. As you and Nathaniel were talking about advice for getting involved in service opportunities, I was just thinking about, you know, first, I think sometimes students don't quite know what to get involved in because, you know, leadership sometimes, you know, you kind of have to kind of work up and develop leadership or, you know, talent. So there are areas where not everyone might be suited and be that interested, but I think everyone can volunteer and do something to serve their community. And sometimes you don't even have to know if you're interested in something, but Cherie, when you talked about like finding something in your community, there's a need. And it reminded me of an essay I read a couple years back from a student who talked about the impact of volunteering at a nursing home for the elderly and the impact it had on him because he never thought that he had it in him and be interested to work with the elderly, but from that experience, he wanted to go on to geriatric medicine. That's what he wanted to study. And so that was very profound for him. And he didn't know. And I think through volunteering, the benefit you get, sometimes you benefit more than the people that you're volunteering, you know, for. You learn so much about yourself, what your interests are, what you like, what you don't like, what you believe in. So I think that's really important. And I think that's really key. And I think volunteering also helps us to reflect on a lot of different things about themselves, their values, our society. And that's going to help with the college application process because all of our questions really push students to reflect. So that would be my additional tip and advice.
I will add as well, and I will actually, I love that, Minha, and I will flip that too. If you're a student that you know what you're passionate about, and maybe you are attending an institution that maybe doesn't have a club organization that necessarily works with that specific topic, you know, that you're passionate about, you can always create a new club organization. So speak up, talk to the staff and faculty and those institutions because they can help you through all that process. Or maybe it's a specific experience that you want to participate in, but the institution you are currently in, maybe they don't offer it. Speak up, be an advocate for yourself, because there's always, when there's a will, there's a way, right? There's always a way to get that done. So if you're not sure what you should be participating on, please, yes, definitely volunteer. You'll find many volunteer opportunities at all of our institutions. But on the flip side, if you're a student that you're very passionate about a specific project or topic, and you find that you haven't necessarily found that community or club organization within the institution that you're in, then please speak up, because you can always create something new and bring something new to your institution.
And we just got a question, so I'm gonna actually give it to Nathaniel. And the question is, how do we address COVID and its impact on the admission process? If you could speak to that a little bit, that'd be great. And then I'll come on over to Chanel after that to touch on it.
Yeah, to be quite frank, like we've all said, we do holistic review. So we do take everything into account. We're on the Common App. So on the Common App this year, there's a brand new question about kind of detailing that. How has your academic life, your personal life been affected by COVID? There's also an additional information section that's right after the essay in the Common Application. Really is a catch-all to say, hey, this was my essay. This was a really important part of me. It's not going to tell the whole story. Here's something else you need to know before you see my transcript or something like that. So we might look at if a school went to pass-fail grades instead of grades that affected GPA. But other than that, for Loyola, at least, we haven't really changed anything huge. We've been a test optional school for over a decade. So even with the access around testing and those difficulties, nothing really changed on our end. But just going back to that holistic review, if there was a tragic occurrence or there was something really difficult at school, there are avenues where you can let the admissions folks know that. And those are, of course, things that we'll take into account.
I can add to that, Sherry. So when we're reviewing your application, we are making sure that you can be successful at our institutions. And that's why we take this approach of holistic review and actually look at your application as a whole. Because sometimes your transcript doesn't tell the entire story, right? And that's okay. And that's why we have this additional questions within the application for you to give us that additional information of what was happening in your life during the past, 4 years or 3 years, right? You're a senior at the point that when you're applying traditionally. So please, if there's from COVID to any other extenuating circumstances that might have affected your experience in high school, whether it's academically or socially, please let us know, because otherwise we wouldn't know, right? If you're not telling us that about yourself, then we don't know that in your application. But by you disclosing that, then we're able to take that into consideration as part of this holistic review. Sometimes your recommender might give us a glimpse of it. Sometimes they won't. So always, as I said before, be an advocate for yourself and make sure that you are sharing that with us. And know that we are understanding. We all have been a part of this global health crisis. So it has affected all of us one way or another. So know that we get it, okay? And if we want to get a little bit more technical, while Nathaniel mentioned that they've been test optional for over a decade, similar with Assumption, but actually we used to require test scores for our nursing program. We no longer are requiring test scores for our nursing program. So when it comes to something specific within the admissions process, that is something that was removed from our process to make sure that we, it's equitable to all and we're providing access to all students. Same thing with the application fee. We actually removed that application fee, especially because we've seen that students and families, obviously with jobs changing and whatnot with this global health crisis, there is that financial factor as well. So we removed that limitation from the admissions process at Assumption. So those are two ways that technically, right, how it has affected our own admissions process, which I think is for the better.
Minhal, did you want to add anything?
Sure. Thank you. So just like Nathaniel talked about, we're part of Common App too. So encourage, students to talk about how COVID has impacted them. And there's a lot of compassion, I think, from all admissions offices across the country, especially at Catholic schools, right? Because we got to walk the walk, right? You're not the only one experienced. We're all in this with you. So there's a lot of compassion, with maybe the lack of involvement because there's nothing for you to be involved in. You are stuck at home. So we understand. So please don't stress out about that, because I know it's been a source of stress. On the testing front, we actually decided to be test optional our faculty voted, I think, a week before that March 20th, when the announcement came out about the pandemic, and we were all, shut down and at home. So for us being test optional had nothing to do with pandemic, as I'm sure Nathaniel talked about, right? It wasn't, but how that impacted us was we actually took it another step further and decided to be test blind and test free. So that's what we did for the fall entering 2021 class. We're test free, and for fall 2022, we will extend that trial and be test free or test blind again. And it's for us is the issue of access, and that has been a barrier for us. So we saw a 20% increase in applications from students of color. So we'll be test free again. I don't know what we'll do for 2023, but for 2022, we're happy to be test free. Thank you.
Fantastic. I really want to thank all of the panelists for being here today. And I will leave all of our attendants with one tip, is that there's nothing in the college admission process that can stump you, because when you fill out your application, it's all about you, and you're the expert on you, not the colleges. So we really look forward to getting to know you all through the admission process. All of us are on Common App, have test blind or test optional policies. And so we look forward to serving you through the college admission process as well. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. You shared such great information just about social justice and being involved and what it means to give to your community outside of your college community. So thank you all so much for all the tips and advice that you shared to our attendees. This does bring us to the end of our webinar. At the end of the webinar, for all of our attendees, you will receive a quick survey, which is 5 questions. We appreciate the feedback that you're able to offer. Want to encourage you to check out sessions in the future, and know that this recording will be available at strivescan.com/NCCAA. Thank you everyone for being here this evening. Have a great evening.